Okay, this is the last part of a document written by, or paper written by, on a website, Eldon G. Warman, and the website is detaxcanada.org, all one word. I'm just going to read the end of this last part. This brief identifies the chains with which they, the merchants of Venice, their direct descendants, and their lackeys, have used to make we the people of North America into debt slaves. The merchants of Venice, descendants of the elitist cults of ancient Chaldea in Egypt, bastardized the many courts of Europe during the Middle Ages so as to effect their continued control, which they had established during the period after the collapse of the Roman Empire, up to the Dark Ages and through the Middle Ages period. In 1776, as indicated on the symbolic pyramid on the Federal Reserve dollar note, the continuation of their control was revealed as the Illuminati. This was the grand organization, or reorganization, as they would have us believe, of the Masonic Lodge. The direct effect on us was their influence in the various mixings of the law of the sea with the law of the land in the British limited monarchy system. The situation is as a frog immersed in cold water brought slowly to a boil. The poor creature doesn't recognize the temperature change and cooks unaware. In the latter half, on another web page I have posted on the internet, I will explain how the British monarchy has exchanged the Anglo-Saxon common law, based solely upon God's law, the golden rule, do not unto others as you would not have them do unto you, for the British so-called common law, a form of Roman civil law. Okay, find it here, treason. The founding fathers of the USA were all Freemasons, a commonly known fact. A recent revelation shows that the Constitution of the USA is ultra vires because it was never ratified by either the Committee of the States or, more appropriately, by the people. Those signing as witnesses after Article 7 were members of a committee to draft the Constitution. Witnessing would be the procedure to show unanimous approval of the draft by the committee members involved. The next step should have been approval by the Committee of the States, the representative organizations of the states mandated in the Articles of Confederation, Section 5, AD 1777. The final step should have been a ratification vote by the eligible voters in all the states concerned. There is no evidence that the latter two steps ever took place, thus making the present Constitution of the USA an undrafted draft. Instead, it was only ratified by the corporate officers, legislators of the incorporated states. Americans have been deceived into believing that those they elect into state legislators and Congress are representatives of the people. They are only representatives of that portion of the deck, voting district, of the make-believe ship, corporate body, politic, for which they become corporate officers. Their total allegiance is to the captain, governor of the make-believe ship. The Protocols of Zion, the game plan of the Illuminati, and their one world government movement was apparently brought to the public attention as early as 1785. In that program, the plans were set forth to thwart nationalism in common law societies by many devious ways, including the use of masonry. Were George Washington and his close associates, all Masons, involved in the plan to scuttle the Union and the common law society destined for the people of North America? It is quite obvious that the government of Canada has been using similar tactics to enslave the people of Canada, and in turn, and to turn over this country's raw materials to the overlords who hold the economic strings which control it. The BNA Act of 1867 did not confederate Canada. It only combined 4 British colonies into one colony, the Dominion Colony of Canada. The government was a dictatorship, a governor-general in council, Canada's parliament. The status of Canada, period. The status of Canada was similar to that of a ship of the British Admiralty. The status of the people of Canada was similar to sailors on a ship of the British Admiralty, not that of an English freeman. In 1931, the Statute of Westminster effectively decommissioned the colonies of the British Empire, just as they would decommission outdated ships of the Admiralty. Canada was taken over by a usurper clique of financial barons with Rothschild Empire connections and allegiances at that time, supposedly under the right of salvage, and no change has taken place since then. At the time of writing of this document, the author was obviously unaware of the status of U.S. citizen. As originally conceived, the states were independent countries tied together by a pact or treaty in which certain sovereign states' rights were given over to a federal government, first in the Articles of Confederation and then more succinctly in the Constitution of the USA. Each person born within a state or naturalized in a state was a citizen of that state, and then by the Commonality Clause of the Constitution, a citizen of the other states, a citizen of the USA. For eminent domain purposes, so that the federal government could purchase land, Louisiana Purchase and Alaska Purchase, and enter into international treaties, a piece of land, a federal state, was provided for in the Constitution, a necessity arising out of the rules governing eminent domain. Since the federal government was not given any Saxon common law jurisdiction in the Constitution, whether this was by oversight or by design scheme, considering later circumstances, remains for conjecture, but only maritime jurisdiction. The people within such a federal state, Washington, D.C., come under maritime law. In legal terms, United States only means the District of Columbia, some territories, and Navy bases. The United States of America is combined 50 states. The 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was supposedly inserted to give the black slaves citizenship, which was denied to them by the states. But in fact, what the 14th Amendment did was just transfer ownership from the private slave owners to the U.S. federal government. It seems that the schemers have multi-layered the traps to ensnare the unwary people into Admiralty jurisdiction, beyond what the author has revealed in his research within this paper. Later research shows other methods. The result would be that one argument would clip one strand of the noose, but two or three others would still be fatal in and before a court of admiralty. For example, through interpretation of the 14th Amendment and the Social Security Act, the act of applying for and receiving a Social Security number being the binder of the contract, a USA citizen also becomes a U.S. citizen. The former has common law rights. The latter has maritime privilege. The author adequately covers the difference in common law and maritime law. The former citizenship you were born or naturalized into, the latter you were hoodwinked into. In the USA, you have the Uniform Commercial Code, UCC. You should become very familiar with UCC 1-207, as well as UCC 1-103.6. All right, I got cut off. Okay. In the USA, you have the Uniform Commercial Code, UCC. You should become very familiar with UCC 1-207, as well as UCC 1-103.6. Therein lies your protection and recourse when you are subject to any issue that falls into Admiralty jurisdiction on land. That is, unless the judge whom you confront decides that it is for the good of the ship, the body politic, that he invoke the notwithstanding clause and disregard even this protection clause. End. So, this looks like it's some pretty good information.